So I watched this movie called Creepozoids, which granted is the best title in the history of movie titles, but it could have been more accurately titled Alien Ripoff number 759, or better yet, Filler, the movie. We began with one of the 6 people they could convince to be in this piece of shit, working in a poorly lit lab, and in case you can't hear it, there are quotation marks around that word. She hears a noise from outside the door and asks who's there, then immediately forgets about it. It's not until she hears noises 2 more times that she actually decides to get up and check. And of course it turns out it's a Creepozoid, standing in an even more poorly lit hallway. And boom, that's 1/6 of our cast out of the picture. I was going to say actors, but that might be going too far. Then we get some way too wordy exposition via futuristic green text that pops up on the screen, not 1 letter at a time like it was being typed, but 1 word at a time, like someone was told to make it look like it was being typed but didn't understand how typing worked. And we learn that we are in the future world of 1998, where Earth is now a blackened husk of a planet due to a nuclear war that started 6 years earlier. Clearly this movie is not very accurate, because we all know it was actually caused by the release of the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. In between shots of people walking around looking like they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, which is the best acting we'll get in this movie, the opening credits are accompanied by computer sounds that do not match the way the letters are coming up on the screen at all. The credits also tell us that there were 2 writers on this movie, which is 2 more than I would have guessed. After about 5 minutes of these characters doing nothing interesting, they decide to take shelter from the approaching acid rain. So they go inside a building and do nothing interesting, beginning with taking 45 seconds to make it down a regular flight of stairs. As they very slowly explore the abandoned building, they use terms that are supposed to make us believe they're military people, like hump it and 40 paces. The level of realism in this film has rarely been equaled. They find a shower, and this girl says there's no use wasting the water right after wasting a bunch of it, and the guy with her forgets what he's supposed to do until it's too late, then does it anyway and ends up looking like a huge idiot. Maybe it's because he keeps getting visibly distracted by the girl's chest. We get some more shots of people walking around not doing anything. The stereotypical nerd character, who wears glasses and uses words like sensitive, screams like a pansy when he finds a severed head. I should mention that every time characters go from one place to the next, we have to follow them every step of the way, which not only adds to the level of realism, but also helps pad the movie out to its beefy 1 hour and 12-minute runtime. The leader guy comes in to rescue him by punting the head away. This is what passes for character development in this movie. One of the girls is played by Linnea Quigley, who is best known for dancing naked in a graveyard in Return of the Living Dead, so I knew it was only a matter of time before she took off her clothes in this movie.
What are you doing?
Standing guard.
No, you're not.
I'm not?
No. You're gonna come and soap my backside.
The fact that the scene feels like it belongs in a porn movie tells you the high level of quality they were aiming for. The nerd finds a computer and navigates it in typical 90s fashion by hitting random keys, even when we see that he sometimes stays on the same screen between shots of him typing. He slowly reads a diary out loud to drag things out even more, and he hits a bunch of keys to go to each next screen instead of just pressing N like it says. When he goes off to investigate a noise, the computer keeps pulling up entries, probably because it's trying to catch up with all the random keys he pressed. And it pulls up a comically ominous one while comically ominous music plays. No one suspects a thing, the blood was a bitch to clean. The nerd crawls into what I guess is supposed to be a ventilation duct, even though it's gigantic, leads to right under the computer desk, and is as well lit as the hallways in this building. He finds a room whose original purpose I could not possibly fathom, that is now filled with webbed up bones, and he just stands there as the monster approaches. The next morning, he seems fine, and for some reason doesn't mention the monster, a point that never gets explained, but when they all sit to eat, he starts convulsing and an alien pops out of his chest. Oh wait, no, they couldn't afford that, so he starts puking up black stuff and his eyes turn into colored contact lenses and he dies. And the one girl here even tries to channel Veronica Cartwright in this scene. Later, she looks at the computer, and even though she doesn't find any actual information, she somehow figures out that the people working there were trying to find a way to make people be able to generate all the amino acids they need without having to eat anything. And somehow the nerd had been altered to be able to do that, so when he ate food, he died. Which doesn't make any sense, but at this point, I was starting to suspect that this movie wasn't written by science majors, or by people with more than a second-grade education. For no reason at all, they assumed that he must have been infected by something from the vent under the computer. Tom Skerritt, the leader, spends literally an entire minute arguing with the others about how he wants to crawl into the vent, and he ends with the ultimate badass line.
Look, maybe you can get your answers from that, but this is all the answers I ever had.
In a scene that perfectly encapsulates this movie by taking way longer than it should, not Tom Skerritt utilizes every last bit of his army training to crawl on his belly through this duct that he could probably stand up in, and he finds the chamber with all the bones in it. The other idiot guy decides to go in after him because he should have been back a long time ago, even though he's only been out of their sight for a few seconds. Leanna Quigley says,
"We need ammo, weapons, explosives, firepower."
But they don't even know there's a monster yet, so this line doesn't make any sense. She runs all the way down this hallway and bumps into a hanging corpse, which never gets explained, then encounters the monster, which immediately leaves for some reason, which never gets explained. We get some more running down a hallway scenes, as others come to find out what happened, then some more crawling scenes, as the second guy goes to find not Tom Skerritt, who it turns out also encountered the monster, and he says,
I don't think it wants to kill.
Which doesn't explain the room full of dead bodies. The girls examine the hanging corpse, and the smart one pulls up a meaningless graph that doesn't even have its axes labeled, so we don't know what we're looking at, but it's supposed to mean something important. Not Tom Skerritt and Leanna Quigley agree that the monster looked like it was once human, but I don't think they know what humans look like.
It was human, or at least started out that way, wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Then the other guy gets attacked by the fakest ass looking giant rat you've ever seen. It looks like something that got left behind at one of those Halloween stores that pop up every year, and they shoot it with one of those laser guns that everyone carried around back in 1998. They discuss luring the monster into a trap, but not Tom Skerritt says it's too smart for that, even though they know literally nothing about it. Not Tom Skerritt decides to try sending for help via the computer, and has the second guy stand guard, but nobody thought to block the vent that they already knew the monster was using, that's right in front of them. For some reason, there's red creepshow lighting in some of these shots, but not others. And for some reason, the second guy doesn't just shoot the monster, but instead runs directly into its grasp, with predictable results. Then, for some reason, not Tom Skerritt decides he might have better success with the same strategy. Spoiler, he doesn't. The monster grabs the second guy's arm and drags him away without bending its fingers, which was impressive. Back where the girls are, something noisily starts knocking stuff over right in front of them, but somehow they don't notice it. Then the second girl gets a scene where she takes off her clothes. Except she doesn't, because she gets distracted by Leanna Quigley making a big fuss about getting attacked by the giant rat prop from earlier. The fact that she doesn't take off her clothes isn't weird just because of the kind of movie this is, but also because when I looked up the cast, I saw that this woman went on to become a porn actress. So it's good to know that at least one person's career wasn't destroyed by this movie. The rat makes a clearly human noise as it jumps up Leanna Quigley's shirt. There's some fake suspense as they somehow lose track of the rat a couple of times, only to have it keep popping back out, and it bites the second girl, before Leanna Quigley finally kills it via Bruce Lee impression. Meanwhile, the monster sprays the second guy with black spray paint, and when the others find him, they don't try to avoid touching it, and I'm no scientist, but I would be a little more careful. He ends up having a similar reaction as the nerd, except he didn't eat anything, so I don't know what's supposed to be happening. But his face swells up and starts spewing gross shit all over the place. This was the point where I remembered I hadn't had lunch yet, and I went and made myself a sandwich. When I came back, it turned out the monster had apparently been sitting in the corner of the room the whole time, and they somehow just didn't notice it. Our hero zaps it a few times, but it doesn't die, because there are still 20 minutes left of this of this film. Leanna Quigley goes back to check on the other girl, and she turns into a deadite and starts trying to strangle her. She uses the last object I ever would have expected to see someone use as a weapon, a small bottle of pills, which she smashes into her face. And they move on to a They Live style fight scene. Before the deadite is killed in a very Evil Dead fashion. Not Tom Skerritt is still running from the monster, I guess, and it catches him, and I cheered because it meant we were that much closer to the end of the movie. Leanna Quigley goes into the ducts, and thanks to the high camera angle, it has never been more apparent how much room there actually is in there. She finds not Tom Skerritt's body, but the monster finds her. It picks her up, again without bending its fingers, and kills her, even though they said earlier it didn't want to kill them. So now all the characters are dead. I breathed a sigh of relief. I made it through. I survived. Creepozoids. Oh wait, shit, it turns out not Tom Skerritt is still alive. Damn it! He crawls away down the duct again, looking more and more like an idiot all the time. This is supposed to be a suspenseful scene, so naturally, the longer it goes on, the funkier the music gets. We get our one full body shot of the monster, and I can see why they went with only one. Then the monster reveals its ultimate attack, picking someone up and just holding them there for 20 seconds before remembering what the script said to do next. After he gets back up, the monster is gone. Why? Where did it go? But then it pops out again. Why? Why was it hiding? What was the point of that brief moment of fake suspense? Why does it leave again after knocking him down again? What's the point of this movie? These are the kind of questions that philosophy majors live for. Not Tom Skerritt grabs a syringe of something and runs at the monster with it, but since he does it in the most telegraphed way possible, the monster is fully prepared and knocks him aside. But somehow he still manages to inject the monster with whatever it is, and it just stands there for some reason, and its feet are backwards, apparently. The monster falls over dead. It's finally over. But wait, there's more. For no reason at all, the monster suddenly gives birth to the baby from It's Alive. And I have never been so entranced by watching nothing interesting happening as the baby takes literally half the runtime of this entire movie to slowly crawl over to the guy, only for him to just knock it over like the stiff prop it really is. But then it somehow disappears. And even though our protagonist can hear it growling comically, he's too stupid to just follow the sound, or even just leave now that everyone else is dead. So now it's man versus baby, the greatest battle of all. The eternal struggle from the dawn of time. After being ambushed by a crawling infant multiple times, not Tom Skerritt finally manages to strangle it with its own umbilical cord. Then we experience the death of a weird monster baby in extreme pornographic detail. Not Tom Skerritt finds the body of the dead-eyed girl, and presumably finally decides to leave. And then we get the best part of the whole movie. The baby gets back up. We freeze frame on it, and go to credits. And because we have to drag the runtime out as much as possible, and because this still does not qualify as a real movie, the credits go by 50% slower than any movie I've ever seen. F*** you, David Essex, for working on this movie. You should have stuck to music. F*** you, David Lean. I'm never watching Lawrence of Arabia again. F*** you, Wilma, for leaving Fred for Barney. I always knew there was something going on there. But most of all, f*** me for watching the piece of shit that is Creepozoids.